Hello, good afternoon. This is Anita with Black Travel Summit. We'll be meeting with the Sporadic Traveler today. Hi there. Just waiting for him to come online. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you can stay with us today. We'll be talking about mental health in the Black community and how that intertwines with travel as well. Okay, let's see. Hello, hi there. Okay, so let's see if we can get you on. Travel Summit. Okay, let's see if we can get him back on. Hello, good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you very much. It's Dawud or Dawud? I had to
Dawud.
Dawud. Okay, beautiful. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you very much. Everything is kind of hectic, but we're kind of moseying along. You're in Toronto at the moment?
Yes, I am.
How
Toronto,
is
Canada.
Oh, nice. How is it going up there in regards to COVID-19 and the whole
Man,
travel space?
it's really hot for one. Extremely hot.
Nice.
Uh,
It's a good
love the
thing.
warm weather, but
Mm.
it's kind of hot right now. I'm just trying to get situated here. Um, okay. Yeah. So love the warm weather. Things
Hmm.
are kind of going back to normal just a bit. Um,
Hmm.
but you still got to be really careful because the numbers are rising every time they open stores, they go into different phases. Um, and right now, we're just trying to figure out moving forward and how we're going to do that and how it's going to look.
Yeah.
Um, I really worry about um, us as individuals not having the freedom to do what we want and how that affects our mental health.
Yeah.
And the fact that we know it's kind of getting to a point where people are dying and we really got to take this seriously. I think we're recognizing it now, but as things open back up and the numbers get higher, it just seems that like we really got to figure something out because it just seems like it's not stopping. Think
Yeah.
about March. Like around March, you were like, oh, give it like a month,
Yeah.
and we're in July now, and it's still here, still
It's
happening.
affecting us. It is. So
Mhm.
that kind of brings me on to, your background and your story. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and your experience with mental health?
So I work in the mental health field.
Mm-hmm.
I'm addictions and mental health counselor. I work as a youth worker as well
Mm-hmm.
in the mental health field. And I've been in the mental health field for nearly 10 years. Really enjoy it. That's what I went to school for. And I really just try to work with people of color and just trying to kind of shed light on certain things that we're dealing with every day.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I tend to focus on working with youth, at-risk youth,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to kind of give them like a perspective, a different perspective, and
Yeah.
just be someone that, the youth can look to and talk to and, get advice, get things to like just be able to ask questions and get answers and non-biased and non-judgmental.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you'll
Yeah.
have to apologize.
I see the
Apologies to
cat
my
in the back.
cat. He runs this house, so he goes
Yeah.
where he wants. Um, so what inspired you, or what kind of like forced you, or not forced you, but what pushed you onto that trajectory into caring so much about mental health, and how do you intertwine it with your travels?
So I recognize that um, we as like me, I being a black man,
Yes.
um, I found it extremely hard to talk about what I was dealing with,
Mm-hmm.
whether emotionally, whether mentally, whether physically. Um, and I held a lot of things in. I didn't share. I didn't share a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that started kind of exhibiting itself in different ways, whether it be relationships, family, and you start recognizing that a lot of relationships you have end up kind of start going in a certain vein just because of your personality. But a lot of the times it's not your personality. A lot of the times it's the defense mechanisms that you've actually like over the years started kind of developing to kind of protect yourself. And for me, I started working at shelters. I like working at shelters. It gives you a raw feel for what's happening and how things are happening in the society and how the systems affect individuals and how individuals are dealing with what's happening around them. And as I started working in shelters, I recognized that that is something that I was really passionate about. I really enjoy working with individuals who are dealing with things that they really don't know how to verbalize or how to come across or get it out or share it. And as time went by, I found myself getting deeper and deeper into like community work and deeper into working at shelters. And then I kind of started working at, so I worked at a facility that was a treatment facility. So my job, I was a counselor for individuals with mental health and addiction issues. And so there's a bee around me. I'm terrified of bees.
Okay, it's okay. Make sure you're safe.
And as time went on, I just found myself kind of getting deeper and deeper into community work and deeper into just kind of having this ability, this innate ability to share and this innate ability to support and help and just be there. As for travel, travel kind of came about initially not as something that I really wanted to do. It's just something that I kind of started doing to get away from everyday life, to kind of get away to relax, get away to spend time not really doing anything much. And as I started seeing different cultures, different people, different environments, I kind of recognized how mental health plays a role in how we deal with travel and how we enjoy the places we go to and how we kind of just, you know, spend time. And as I travel, the more I travel, the more I see, and the more I see, the more I actually want to do.
Interesting. So you mentioned something really, really interesting, and it's something that I've never really thought about. And I actually studied anthropology in university, which is kind of like, you know, what I do in my day-to-day. But that forces you, and social anthropology in particular, forces you to kind of understand the human psychology and how you perceive, you know, life around you, how you perceive people around you, etc. So while you are traveling, you cannot help but to perceive in the way that you've either been taught to or you've been forced.
How you were raised. Yeah.
Exactly.
The things that you're used to and the things that you're comfortable with. Like for instance, I was in India and I had a really hard time in India. I had a really hard time adjusting to just the amount of people that were there, just the amount of things that are happening, so much stimuli, so many things happening around you. For me, it was really hard because I've never been somewhere where it's like 1 billion people there. And as you walk through Delhi or as you walk through Jaipur, you realize there's so much happening around you. But I'm from Toronto, Canada, and it's quiet, you know, and it's busy, but it's also quiet in its own way. So to go to another city, I'm like worried about what I'm eating. I'm watching like, imagine walking down the street and there's a peacock walking towards you, but just above you, there's like 15 different monkeys trying to grab your hat and trying to grab your bag. And like you're walking and you're literally like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I don't know what's going on. But the individuals that live there are used to that. That's their norm. And for me, my norm is not that, but I had to find a way to adjust and find a way to conform and find a way to recognize that, you know what, I'm here. It's a part of their culture, and I have to find a way to not be the guy that's walking around grabbing everything and being nervous and being scared all the time. And also the fact that I'm Black, the colorism there was like really hard for me to deal with. Shadeism, and to like have someone stare at you in a certain way to make you feel, it makes you feel a certain way. You feel a way being looked at in a certain light without someone not knowing you, without someone not even like, that was really hard for me to maneuver. I found that extremely hard to deal with. The stares, the eyes, but I also recognized that I had to be okay with it. That
Yeah.
is, like, I'm not someone that they're used to. I got a lot of questions. I got a lot of like, how does it feel being here? How do you
Yeah.
like it? And I had to find different ways to kind of communicate because they didn't really speak English well. And I really enjoyed explaining, answering questions, interacting.
Hmm.
It took a couple of days for me to kind of get used to the hustle and bustle there, but I really enjoyed it after a while.
Interesting. I experienced something similar in China. Me and my friend went to China a couple of years ago, and of course, you don't, at least the time that we went, of course, you didn't see many travelers of color, at least in comparison to travelers who aren't of color, right? Um, so the group that we went with, we were the only people of color in that group, and the rest of them were non-POCs, right? I felt that we got the most stares. We got people coming up to us trying to record us in our faces, and as much as we would be like, no, no, it's okay, it's okay. It's like, no, I'm going to record you. Like I'm
Yeah,
gonna go around
I'm
your
gonna hide the phone and take pictures, and you don't know it's coming. Yeah,
hand. Or I'm gonna
it's
have
very hard to deal
like
with.
a filler or something, right? How do you I know you kind of like touched a little bit upon how you dealt with those kind of interactions with people in India, but how do you like what do you see as some of the things that we should be paying attention to, or some of the ways that we should kind of like gear our minds to think, especially people of color, when we do travel, just to kind of like understand that other places aren't always going to either not necessarily accept us, but sometimes it's just because they're not used to us,
Used to it.
not used to seeing people like us travel. Um, like one lady was like, Rihanna, Rihanna, and it's just like, okay, is this ignorance? But then, sometimes ignorance isn't bad. Ignorance just means not knowing,
They don't
right?
know. Yeah, they don't know.
Right.
I've
So,
uh, I've had some interesting situations, like even in Thailand.
mhm,
Um, I had a Thai massage,
mhm.
and while I was having the Thai massage, the individuals that were giving me the massage would feel my muscles, and then they would call the masseuses to come and feel my muscles while I'm laying there. And imagine laying down and you're getting a massage, and a bunch of different people are just coming in, but they're talking at the same time
Yeah,
about
yeah.
you. You can tell they're talking about you. And they're feeling the muscles and they're like, ooh, muscles. And they're grabbing me. And I'm laying there like, what's happening? But the massage was so good. I honestly didn't even pay attention to, the amount of eyes that were being like, just like
Yeah.
on me. And at the time, I recognized, you know what? They're not used to someone like of my color being
Yeah.
in that massage parlor. And it was
Mm,
actually, it got to the point where I got really comfortable with it. I was just kind of like,
mhm.
hey, you want to feel it? Sure. You
Yeah,
can
good.
grab my arm. You can grab my arm if you want. There's no problem. But I had to kind of self-talk and say, you know what? Look, it's not weird. It's not something that they're doing out of purpose. It's just
Mhm.
ignorance. They just want to know, and they've heard things, and they just kind of want to see if it's true, or you know we have to, before going to places, we have to kind of sit down and research, for one. Also, we have to make sure that we are open to the things that we're not used to. We have to
Yes.
be really open to different foods, different cultures, different scents, different everything. It's somewhere that you've never been before, and it's also something that you're not aware of. You don't know what's going to come. You don't know
Hmm.
how it's going to be. And you have to be open. You can't be upset because things are different than what you're used to.
Hmm.
And the moment we recognize within ourselves that, like, well, maybe I'm used to quiet, but that's not going to be quiet, it's going to be easier for us to maneuver while there,
Hmm.
because things come up. Like, I was in Bolivia and I got really sick with the altitude, not
Hmm.
not knowing I was going to, like, I'm thinking I'm gonna land, I'm gonna get some some quesadillas, I'm gonna get some empanadas, and I'm gonna just go, like, and I for like 2 days I couldn't walk, I couldn't move, I couldn't even get out of bed, but I didn't do my research enough to know. you know, and getting there, I would be walking down the street and like a lady that's 90 would walk by me because I couldn't breathe. I'd be standing there huffing and puffing and not being able to get upstairs, not being able to. But if I kind of researched it before going, I would have known.
Yeah.
You know, I spent a lot of time drinking coca leaves tea and chewing coca leaves, chewing coca mints, trying to get back to normal. And if I really did my research, I would have known how much it really affects you if you're not used to the altitude.
Okay, so we talk about mental health because I feel like everyone maybe subconsciously deals with mental health in some you know matter or form, especially as people of color. We talk about our mental health and kind of like trying to pay attention and be aware of ourselves when traveling. What about on the other side? Because I know you talked about, you know, talking to different individuals about, you know, your experiences being there, etc. And I also know that we had talked about privately how you integrate your work into the places that you travel in and work with the people there and the children there. Tell us a bit about that.
So for me, I like to volunteer. I look into places that I can volunteer while going to different places. So maybe like a soup kitchen or a homeless shelter, or even something simple as playing soccer with a bunch of kids. I love soccer. It's what I do. I play soccer a lot. And for me, it's about learning about the culture while giving back. So I have the ability to go to, say, for instance, Costa Rica, and I go there and I want to learn about the culture, but I don't know exactly how. I don't want to kind of go there and start asking questions, taking pictures without permission. So what I've done is I've researched and found ways to integrate myself into that culture without taking advantage of the culture. You get it? So I find myself doing research, figuring out places I can work, figuring out places I can visit, figuring out places like, for instance, I posted a picture the other day on my stories in Nepal. It was a bowl of like rice with fish with different things. And while in Nepal, I visited a home for survivors of trafficking, and I spent the whole day there making like dumplings and cooking and learning and reading the books they wrote. And it was really interesting to kind of hear their stories because they've all been through so much, so traumatic, like hard to deal with, hard to hear. Their experiences completely opened my eyes to just a lot of things that we're not aware of. A lot of things that if we were to be like involved in something like that, we wouldn't be able to like function after. And to see these women so strong, going to school after, getting their degrees, going to law school so that they can help other victims of sex trafficking. It was like, I wear these two bands here, and they're bracelets that I bought at that space because the ladies made them as well and they were selling them. And I never take them off because hearing their stories completely opened my eyes to so many things that has happened and that is happening there in Nepal. That's a huge issue. It's like kids go missing just from their front yards, from their backyards, and they're never found, or they return like 20 years later and the families don't know how to deal with it. And so the home that I visited was one of many that women live in, and the women there live in, and they kind of build each other up, and they go to school and they write books, and it was really, really interesting. And I found myself wanting to do more of that, wanting to learn, hear more stories. I really enjoy hearing stories. I really enjoy, sometimes you might be walking in a park and you look at someone and you're like, I wonder where that person's going. I wonder what their story is. I do that often. And I find myself wanting to know more. Like I want to know what people are up to, what they're doing, what their story is, and how in some way I can help that. If I can add to their life, if I can add to their story, if I could hear their story, be a part of it, and just, like listen, see what their experiences are and how they got there and how they're going moving forward. I think for me at this point in my life, I just want to learn. I just want to learn about cultures, about people, about things. And I think that's one of the main reasons I use social media. I I'm learning a lot about different places and different cultures from social media, from Instagram,
Yeah.
being able to see places before you go there, being able to like envision what you want to do before you get there. For
Hmm.
me, it's actually been really big.
Interesting. That's a lot to take in, but I completely understand. I feel like as if experiences are my reason for traveling. And it sounds like as if it's the same for you as well, you know. I feel like experiences can help you grow. And that's why I feel like travel is so important. But that perspective in regards to mental health has just kind of like opened my eyes in a whole new kind of way. I mean, it's always something I've been aware of, but in regards to traveling, it's definitely not something that I've thought of before. And it's very interesting. What do you see, like, what can we expect from you in the future? Because I know you have a website coming out and everything. What
Yeah.
can we expect to see on there and from your work?
What I've been focusing a lot, I've been thinking about it a lot too, for me
Hmm.
is the notion of escapism,
Hmm.
and using travel as therapy, or are we trying to escape from what we're dealing with at home?
Beautiful.
And I've been thinking a lot about social media also and how that affects us as individuals who
Yeah.
travel, who want to travel, and
Hmm.
are we going to places for the picture, or are we going to the places to experience the cultures, right? And I'm
Yes.
guilty. I find myself sometimes looking at a picture like, oh man,
I want to go there.
want to
Take
go to
that.
I want to go to Bali and I want to go on that swing. I need that swing. And you find yourself getting buying a ticket, getting a flight, going to Bali to take that picture on that swing. But when you're
Hmm.
done that picture, what else are you doing? Are you learning anything about the culture? Are you learning about the food? Are you learning about the country? Are you learning about the flag and the history and all these different things? I find social media plays a really big part in why a lot of people travel.
Hmm.
And I find myself now questioning why I travel. Do I
Yes.
travel because it's my identity to be a traveler, or am I actually just traveling to learn about cultures,
Hmm.
people, things? Or am I now like, I have a list of things in the world that I want to see, and I'm
Hmm.
just kind of like knocking these things off? Because for me, I know the feeling of walking to the Great Pyramid. I nearly lost my mind. I was like, oh my God, I'm at the pyramids. This is crazy.
Yeah.
But learning about the pyramids blew my mind. Just being there blew my mind. The culture in Egypt blew my mind. Things that I didn't think about before going. And now I find myself researching different things before I travel. I
Hmm.
researched Sudan. I researched, how they became two separate countries and, like South Sudan and all these different things. But for me, I'm also like focusing more now on escapism and the fact that like a lot of people travel to get away from problems they have at home.
Hmm.
And I look at things where if you don't sort out what you're dealing with mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically,
Hmm.
when you come back home from that trip, all that stuff's still there,
Yes.
right? So you allow yourself to go away for 2 weeks, um, but what happens when you come back,
Yeah.
right? All the things that you put to the side are there, maybe even more now because that trip is gone. You no longer have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Um, so like I'm on my website, I've been trying to like find a theme, like a vein that I want to go down. And I think for me, it's more about working on the things that you're dealing with at home
Mhm.
so that when you're traveling, you don't have those concerns. So you can travel freely, right?
Yes.
You can openly just kind of be there and be present. Your mind's not on the bills at home or the stress at home or, the relationship that's not working out that you try to get away from, but you come back and you're still dealing with it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. And like you said as well, it's like, who are you when you come back? What has changed about you when you come back? Or are you still the same person? If that's the case, then why did you go in the first place? I,
Exactly.
I feel like there should always be a give and take when you go somewhere, right? So when you go to a country for the first time, like you do, you volunteer, right? So there's always something that you should give when you're going somewhere. Like, for example, if you see people who are struggling or, just supporting the local economy, etc. Like there's
Yeah.
always things that you can do to give, right? But then what
Yeah.
do you take? And it's not necessarily taking in a selfish way, but what do you take from your experience? You know, what have you learned?
What
What have
have
you
you
learned
learned?
about people? What have you learned about their culture? Have you learned anything about their language, about their food, about why they are the way they are? And then what have you learned about yourself, having experienced things in the country that you have just visited, right?
Visited.
Um,
Yeah.
and I see some questions rolling in. They're really good questions. Feel free to continue, you know, asking questions, etc., and we'll definitely address them closer to the end. But this is a really interesting topic, and this is definitely something that I would love to explore further as well. Um, I know you said in the beginning that travel is not necessarily something that you had an initial interest in, right? I'm trying to remember, did you say what exactly influenced you to start traveling?
So first, I think I started like a lot of people started going to like Cuba and
Yeah,
DR and going to resorts and hanging out and kind of like
yeah,
just wanting to escape and just hang out at the pool for like 3 days straight.
yeah.
Um, but after a while, you kind of find living and staying on a resort redundant. It's the same day every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself starting to go on excursions and like seeing places and doing things. And the
Hmm.
more I saw, the more I wanted to see.
Yeah.
So now the more I see, the
Mhm.
more I want to see. And I find myself wanting to go to remote places, places that not a lot of people travel to. And
Yes.
like right now, I really want to go to Laos, Cambodia, Laos. I kind of really want to go to Guatemala. I want to go to like countries that you don't really hear much about.
Yes.
Um, I want to experience their cultures because I don't know much about their culture.
Yes.
Um, and as I started traveling, it wasn't really done on purpose. It was kind of like, okay, well, I work 6 months. Let me go escape for another 2 weeks or a week.
Yeah.
And as I started doing and seeing, I found myself wanting to do and see.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like hearing about broccoli, and you've never had broccoli before. In
Hmm.
your mind, you're like, I probably won't like broccoli. And then you have broccoli, and you're like, oh wow, I love broccoli. Plus, it's
Yeah.
healthy. So I'm gonna start eating broccoli, and I'm gonna start incorporating broccoli into my life
Hmm.
because it helps you, and it also caught you off guard. It's something that you didn't expect that you would really enjoy.
Hmm.
And now I find myself looking and researching places that I'm going to visit, but
Hmm.
I'm also going to like when I travel, I find myself buying clothes, cultural clothing. Like in India, I bought so much clothes. Just I wear them at home. Like any any country I visit, a lot of the clothes that I'm wearing, I bought
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
Um, and I find myself collecting artwork. I collect masks. So another thing I collect.
Yes.
Um, and clothing, just so that when I come home, I have a piece of that culture with me,
Yes.
and I can look at it and be like, oh, I bought this in Kathmandu, Nepal. Just like sometimes people ask me on the street, like, hey, where'd you get your shirt? And I feel really bad sometimes answering because I'm like, I got it in Kuala Lumpur, and they're looking at me like, I'm sure you did. And I'm like, no, really, I got it in Kuala Lumpur. I'm not being a jerk. I'm telling you where I got it.
Yeah.
But the more I learn about cultures, the more cultures I want to see, and the more
Yeah.
cultures I want to experience. And the feeling of landing in a country that I've never been before, for me, is like the ultimate high. Like
Hmm.
landing in Costa Rica while it was pouring rain and getting out of that plane, knowing that I'm gonna go for like a week and just explore somewhere I've never been before, like
Hmm.
really made me happy. And it makes me happy to just experience things that I read about in books or experience things that I saw somewhere and never knew, like Taj Mahal, walking into the Taj Mahal at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like I was like, wow, like I'm in the Taj Mahal. Like I can't believe this. But
Yeah.
the more I do that, the more I want that. And the
Yeah.
more I want to share that, the more I want people to go visit these places or hear about these things or smell the morning dew, in Cairo, or just experiences that you've only like read about as a kid,
Yeah.
and it's a lot easier to travel than people think. Um, you can plan travel, and you can plan it out for like a year ahead, and that way you can pay in installments, and there's different ways to do things. It's about learning and figuring out and then kind of moving forward after.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. Kind of going back to what you said about purchasing and, supporting the local economy, and, that's part of what you do when you go to a place you visit, you collect artwork, you collect clothing, etc. And I do the same as well. As you can probably see behind me. Everywhere I go, I always collect a piece of artwork, and I'm very stingy or very fussy. It has to be an oil piece, or like a satin
Yeah,
kind of strip looking thing like that. But then it's also sometimes clothing as well. And I love that because that's supporting the local economy, that's supporting their livelihood, because they don't have it as easy as we may have it. This is part of their hustle. It's their everyday grind in order to survive, and it may not be as
exactly.
easy for them as it is for us. In regards to your collecting, I see that you're a huge hat collector. Is that something that
Yeah,
you do when you're abroad, or do you
I
collect
do.
for the trip?
No, I collect hats anywhere I go. So this is the disclaimer. I don't wear hats because my head's ugly or like I'm bald or like I know I get that a lot. So
Wow.
for me,
Okay.
when I came to Canada, I came to Canada when I was 14,
Mhm.
and my mom came to Canada to work before I came here. So my mom, the first thing my mom gave to me, hand to hand, was a
Mhm.
hat.
Oh,
So
wow.
for me, it was a representation of like, this is the first thing my mom's given to me as a grown person.
Yeah.
Also, I was new to a country. I had a
Mhm.
really strong accent. I had a
Yeah.
really strong accent. I was extremely small, very tiny. I got bullied in school a lot. So for me, the hat became a blanket, a security blanket where I would wear it really, really low, and I would cover my face and cover my head, and I would just go about
Mhm.
my day at school. As time went on, the hat became a part of like who I am just because it made me so comfortable.
Mhm.
So the hat became like a part of me because it made me feel safe. And
Mhm.
to this day, hats still make me feel safe. So sometimes if my friends want to go clubbing and I'm like, "Hey, can I wear a hat in there?" And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, see you guys later. I'm out. But
I love
it's
it.
not it's not even about like how I look. It's about
Yeah.
how the hat makes me feel because it's something that I brought from my childhood. It's something that I brought with me, and I've always worn a hat. I've had
Mhm.
grades, I've had you name it. I've had it. No one ever saw my head because I
Yeah.
always wore a hat. So as I got older, all the hats that I wanted when I was younger, I can purchase them now. I can buy them. I can collect them. So I find myself buying hats. I bought berets in Cuba, the Fidel Castro berets. Like anywhere I go, I buy a hat.
Yeah.
And now I just have like a ridiculous amount of hats, but I find myself wearing the same one or two over and over. But the hat for me is just a representation of the person that I am. It's a
Mhm.
like a protective blanket, and I know a lot of people wonder why I wear hats, but that is the main reason as to why I wear hats.
Interesting. So, what is your favorite, I guess, how can I say, hat story, where you purchased it from, and what is it that you love so much about the hat?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. Never thought about that one before. Um, I find myself, like for instance, Oman. They have really nice hats there,
Oh, nice.
and yeah, Oman is a really nice place. Very beautiful, really good people.
Mhm.
Actually got stuck in Oman, but we won't get into that. But the people helped me a lot. They got it. They really helped me a lot. And because of the generosity and just the sheer like appreciation they showed for me visiting there, I'm going to revisit. I'm going back just because of the people.
Yeah.
Um, I I bought a beret in Cuba in Havana, and
Mm,
I really wanted it. I just wanted the red star that Che Guevara would always wear.
yeah.
And there was a guy that was like somewhat seedy, like he was in a corner, like with a bag, and he was just kind of like, you need a hat, you want a hat, you want a hat. And I was like, do I want to spend this money here with this guy? I don't know for sure what he's selling. I don't know what's in there. And as we were about to leave, I found myself like running back to this guy and handing them the money really, really quickly because I don't know what else was going on there. Um, but I actually ended up using the hat to take a picture in Havana, in
Mm,
downtown Havana. Um, but yeah, I have so many stories. It'll be hard for me to like pinpoint one off the
Yeah.
bat, but the Havana one, because I really thought about it. I was like, is it only hats he's selling? What else is he selling in that bag? Like, it's a plastic bag. I was like, what's going on in this bag? I was very curious about the bag. I wanted to know what was in the bag. But the beret. I bought a few actually. I bought two, but the beret was funny to me. It made me laugh.
Interesting, interesting. Okay, so I'll ask maybe one or two more questions and then start allowing, you to answer some of the questions that are rolling in as well.
Okay.
This is one question I like to ask everyone. What is one principle that you stand on or stand by in life?
Wow.
I'm hitting you with those questions today, huh?
Great question. Great question. I truly believe that no one can live the life that you were meant to live. Like, you can hear from somebody else how to live your life. You can't take advice from people on how to maneuver your job, your life, like, because everyone's experience is completely different.
Yeah.
And I often struggle with counseling people. I often struggle with giving advice because I always feel responsible for the outcome when I do. Because I don't live that life. I can tell you, I can give you tips, I can give you tools, but I truly believe that we as individuals have a life that we are destined to live, and we have to do everything in our power to make sure that it's a positive one. I really struggle with opinions, like the opinions of others, or like I don't pay attention to it. I really don't. I'm one of those people, I may come off cocky or arrogant, but what someone thinks of me really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I know what I'm doing wrong in my life. I know what I'm doing right. I know what I'm doing that needs work. I know, I'm very aware of what's happening with me, within me. And I think the more I grew, the less I cared what others thought. And the less I care what others think, the more inclined I am to focus on myself and the positive within me.
Yes.
So for me, I find myself like not really paying attention to like gossip, and I don't pay attention to hearsay. I don't pay attention to something someone told me about someone else, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I don't live that person's life. If I was in the same position, I probably would do the same thing. I have no idea, right? I do believe that we as individuals are destined to live a life that we were chosen for.
Yes.
So like, if you think of some of the decisions you've made over the last 10 years, you've made good ones, you've made bad ones.
Yes.
But you made them, and you are responsible for the life that you live. You're the only person that can live your life. If you think of some of the trauma you have, some of the triggers you have, only you have had those experiences. No one else can talk on them or speak on them because they never had them. So when someone comes to me about a relationship issue or a family issue, I ask them to think about, like, honestly, how do you actually feel about what's happening? Because a lot of people seek validation around making decisions. That way they don't have to take full responsibility for the decisions they make. So for me, it's very big that I decide what I'm going to do for me. That way, 10 years down the line, I only have myself to blame if something doesn't work out.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah, I try to live the life that I want to live.
That was a beautiful answer. And that's definitely something that I feel can be expanded on. Unfortunately, we don't have the time, but that's definitely something that maybe we can talk about in future. And then anybody who wants to get in touch with you as well can reach out to you.
Sure. For sure.
One last question before we go to the questions that's been presented in the chat today. What's your favorite destination? Very simple.
Bolivia.
Bolivia.
Bolivia caught me off guard. I didn't expect it.
Really?
I went there just like looking forward to Argentina, looking forward to Chile, and Bolivia is like, it's beautiful. It's one of the few places I've visited that has, like, you can go in a van from desert to red clay to mountains to forest to like a llama standing right beside you to like a vicuña in the background. Like, then you have the salt flats, and then you go into like another desert, and it's really like scenic, very beautiful. a lot of lagunas. So there's like the white laguna, the pink, and they all have flamingos everywhere. It's just flamingos. So you're standing there and it's just like 1,000 flamingos beside you, and you're like, oh, these flamingos. What do I? Because you never really see flamingos when you think of it, right? So to be somewhere and there's just all this wildlife and like, it's like the salt flats was amazing. It's like a desert of salt, and it runs for like miles. All you can see, it's mind blowing. The last picture that I posted is on an island in the salt flats. It's the cactus island. It's an island of just cactus.
Wow.
And I'm at the top of it, and you can see the salt flats. It's like as far as the eyes can see. It's massive, but it's really beautiful. And going through Bolivia taught me a lot about like just being able to, spend time with myself, being able to gather my thoughts, being able to like recognize what I like, what I don't like. I recognize I really like deserts. I really enjoy deserts.
Same.
Yeah, I really like the scenery there, but yeah, Bolivia for sure.
Interesting. I know I said I wasn't going to ask any more questions, but may I ask your sign, your sun sign?
I'm an Aries.
That, you know what? I'm a Leo, and I find that a lot of sun signs, well, signs who correlate with the sun at least, anyway, fire signs, we love deserts.
Yeah, we do.
We love deserts, and I don't know what it is about them. It's just like a homely kind of feeling. Like, I don't know what it is.
It's the calm, and you can also see everything that's happening around you.
Yes, that's what it is. And I love the sun as well. Okay, all right. So let's see some of these questions that have come in. I'm just going to go back to the beginning, and let me know if I have missed any of your questions. What's the name of your website to come?
So it's the sporadictraveler.com.
And when can we expect that?
Okay, so today I'm bunkering. I'm going to sit down all day today, and I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get it completed. Let's say next Saturday. I'm probably going to try and launch by next Saturday.
Awesome.
I'm going to give it all my energy and all my time.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that. Now, I want to hear more about the idea of travel as escapism. Do you think that's a positive or negative for your mental health?
I think that's a good question. I think it could be positive, but it could also be really negative. Again, because you're escaping things that you're going to have to deal with when you come back.
Yeah.
May not be everything, but a lot of it, when you come back, you're going to have to deal with what's happening, whether within you, outside of you, with someone else. You're going to have to figure out how you're going to maneuver. But maybe the positive of it is getting away gives you the time to think about your approach. Getting away gives you clarity and space to think about what you want to do and how you want to do it. Because maybe having the individuals around you that you're dealing with may not be the best environment to deal with certain things. So getting away, having the time and the space, having the ability to just be alone, having the ability to see new things, experience new cultures, new food, new spaces, new scents, new everything, can also like motivate you to maybe change your approach, maybe change the way you think, maybe to change the way you look at things. And that way, coming back gives you a different approach to resolving whatever concerns or issues you have.
Interesting. I love the answer to that. Now, I Explore My World has asked, what does it mean for you when you say that you're a traveler?
I never really liked that term. Everyone travels. So I think a travel blogger may be the more appropriate term, because then like there's like a visual aspect to what you're doing. So the places you go, you can actually, somebody else can see that, and you can document it, and they can go on your website, they can go on your Instagram, they can go on your Snapchat and see what you're doing. They can also get motivation from it. They could also ask questions. They can do research from your page. I think everyone travels, but not everyone blogs it. Not everyone has a website. Not everyone has, so when someone asks me if I'm a traveler, I usually just say, like, I wouldn't say I'm a traveler. I don't identify as a traveler. I just like seeing new places, and I like experiencing cultures.
Love it. Okay, so Travels in Color says, what do you say to Black people or people of color that are fearful of traveling beyond Black countries out of fear of racism to erase their fears?
I a lot of the time, what I've experienced, and I'm just speaking from my experiences here, racism is something that it's there. Like
It's
no matter
everywhere.
where you go, you have it at
Yeah.
home, you have it when you travel. You have to find a way to not let the thoughts and ideas of others affect how you live your life. So
Yeah.
that again is what I'm going back to, like how I live my life. I really don't. You think I am this and that because of my skin tone. I'm sorry, that's extremely ignorant, but that's also
Yes.
your opinion. I also don't know how you were raised. I also don't know your past history. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
experiences you've had because of someone of color. I don't know. So
Mm-hmm.
that's your story to tell. It's not my story. The way you feel about me does not affect me because I don't know you. At the end of the day, you can't take anything personal from people that don't know you personally. So
Yes.
you have to live your life in the way that you deem appropriate. So I want to travel to China. I want to go to China. I know when I go there, it may be something. I don't know for sure. I may go and be able to change one person's mind,
Yeah.
right? And just that alone, that person may share something else with someone else that could
Mm-hmm.
change that person's mind. I know I love traveling and I'm not going to let the negative, the ignorance of other
Mm-hmm.
people affect the way I live my life. So if I remain professional at all times. If you're not for me, you're not for me. At the end of the day, if I'm around you and there's no love being shown, I'm leaving that space.
Yeah.
If I'm around you and we're in a country and you want to cut your eye, you want to look at me, you want to yell at me, by all means, do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to leave the space and I'm going to enjoy the rest of my day because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, your thoughts do not hold any weight in my life because I know the people of color that I have in my life aren't negative, they're not bad, they're loving, caring. Your opinion of them, you don't know them, your
Yeah.
opinion of them is based on something so minuscule. Just, oh, look at this person's skin tone. I can't mess with that person.
Yeah.
It shows you don't know a lot. It
Yeah.
shows ignorance. So I'm just gonna allow you to be that ignorant person you are, but you have to live the life that you want. You can't allow your boss at work to tell you you're not going to get promoted because you're black.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have to put that work in. And if you get to a certain point in your career, you realize, yeah, I may not be promoted. You have to find another avenue
Yeah.
because people are going to be who they are. If you think about it, we are who we are. Our experiences have shaped us to be who we
Exactly.
are. So someone can't tell you not to be upset because they're racist. You have to talk to yourself and explain to yourself your idea of me is based on something that is not factual.
Yeah.
So you have to ignore any thought. You have to do not give your energy, like protect your energy at all costs. Because at the end of the day, one comment could ruin your whole day, ruin your whole trip, and now your money's wasted because somebody made a comment to you,
Yeah.
right? You have to figure out what's important. And at the end of the day, your trip's more important than some ignorant person's thought.
Exactly. I always say only you have control over your emotions, and you should never let anybody else, take control of that because that's when you give them the power,
Exactly.
and only you should hold the power over your actions, right?
That is true.
Um,
That is true.
so Twende Global is asking, what country did you move from at 14? I think I have an idea, but I want you to say it.
I moved from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's in the Caribbean. Lovely country, beautiful country, beautiful, beautiful country. You should visit it. It's black sand, white sand. One side of the country is black
Nice.
sand, other side is white sand. You got to check it out. Beautiful volcano there. It's an amazing country.
Awesome. Okay, so young Sabia, I would also love to contribute or volunteer when I travel. Any tips on how to research where you can volunteer in your destination country?
You can Google a lot of it. Also, depending on the country you go to, you can contact their travel websites, and they have different places that you can look into. Also, you can just look at, like, say, for instance, the Salvation Army. You can also look into, like, different agencies that work in different countries. So that way you can contact them before you get there. So you know for sure the community that they're in is safe, the places that you're going into are safe, and it's safe for you health-wise because you never know what could come of like going into unknown places, right? So you have to do the research before you go.
Exactly. I agree. Okay, so Rod SF, can you touch on Black travelers to not be afraid to be solo travelers? Also, that not everyone that travels has to be a blogger.
That is true. I struggle with the blogging thing. I go through phases of like not wanting to post, but then because for me, I feel like a lot of people look for motivation on Instagram to travel, but it feels to me like, is it genuine? Or are we going to the places we actually want to go to, or are we going to the places that are really popular on Instagram?
Yeah.
Because we're chasing certain pictures and we're chasing a certain aesthetic, a certain look, you know. Solo travel is one of the most important things. Like if you're starting to travel, you can do it. It opens your mind so much, and you recognize you're a lot stronger than you think you are. You're more independent than you think you are, and it's not as bad as you think it is. It's not lonely. You meet a lot of people, and you have to be open. Again, you have to be open to wanting to have new experiences. I like group travel. It gives me a different perspective. So going to places with a bunch of different people from different countries, it gives me a different experience than being by myself. So being able to learn about France from someone from France while I'm on a trip in Chile, it's even more of like an experience because I didn't know I found out or I learned. But solo travel is also really good for just finding yourself and giving yourself the space and time to just be you and not having to like be someone else or conform. Even if you want to, you can be, but you have the ability to do what you want. And you're not an itinerary. You're not, you know, going from place to place to place. You can literally go to Sevilla, Spain, and just spend a week there and just be you and research and just kind of travel around and learn and learn everything you want to learn there.
Move at your own pace, not be disappointed if you don't get to visit a particular site or you know, do something that you wanted to do because, you know, you're with other people. So one more question, because I know once it gets to a certain point, Instagram is going to cut us off. So I explore my world. Where are you going to next once we can travel safely?
So right now I am like fighting the urge to go somewhere. Like I don't even at this point, I don't even know what's going on in my mind. I feel like someone clipped my wings and I can't do anything. But what I've also done in this time is I've researched a lot of the places that I'm going to travel to later. And I think for me, the first international place I'm probably going to go is Grenada. They have an underwater park there, an underwater that I want to dabble in. And I'm not a water person. So for me, that would be like a huge step outside of my comfort zone. I don't like water. I don't like not knowing what's around me. I think that's why I like deserts, right? I could see everything. So water for me is like frightening because it's dark. You don't know what's under there. Anything can touch you. Like I freak out. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take very specific swimming classes so that when I do go Grenada, and you're going to see these pictures everywhere, I'm going to make sure I'm going to be in this water doing the most, shirt off for like a week, just running around, just going to that water park and just figuring things out while I'm there.
Nice. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for meeting with us today. It was an absolute pleasure. Please tell the people where they can reach you at if they have any more questions.
So you can find me on my Instagram at the Sporadic Traveler. And on my Instagram, my website's there, and so is my email. If you want to contact me, you can.
Awesome. And you guys can contact us if you have any queries in the future as well at Black Travel Summit. Keep in tune because we'll be meeting with more awesome guests like Dawud. Thank you again so much for meeting with me today, and everybody have a blessed day.
No problem. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.